following program is available in high definition on Channel 700. This program is designed and produced by the community with the support of TVCogeco.
Hi, and welcome to Our Home with Mayor Sendzik. My name is Walter Sendzik, Mayor of the City of St. Catharines, and I'm glad you can join us today. And this is our first episode of 2016, so hope everyone had a wonderful holiday season, a wonderful new year, and we're looking forward to exciting things in our community. But just want to really touch on some of the highlights from 2015. So for me, as Mayor of the City, looking back at what was a fantastic year, you're looking at, number one would be on my list would be the opening of the First Ontario Performing Arts Center in downtown St. Catharines, and what a venue that is. And I would say it's one of the top performance venues in Canada, if not North America. When you look at how it's been designed, 4 theaters, the connection to Brock University, located in our downtown, it's such a vibrant energy that comes out of that center that is really transforming our downtown. So that'd be number one. And if I'm David Letterman, I'll go through 9 more. So it would be my top 10 list. And I'm looking at the opening and the relocation of the Marilyn I. Walker School of Fine and Performing Arts. When you look at that center in the downtown lower level and its connection to the Performing Arts Center, that is creating the next generation of creative thinkers, idea makers, people, creative minds that are really going to be the focus of where we're going as a community. We've got such bright young minds down there, and their educators are there. It's a building that has been transformed from what was once a manufacturing building into now a building that is going to manufacture ideas. And that is really where we are as a community. It's the Performing Arts Center, it's the Marilyn I. Walker School of Fine and Performing Arts, it's the Meridian Center right next door that's attracting so much interest. So you look at that, and those are 2 highlights that have been driven by investments in our downtown, that have been driven by investments from the public sector, from Brock University, from the City of St. Catharines, the federal and provincial government. So those are 2 great really cornerstones for where we're building our community. And some of the other highlights from the year was the Pan Am Games in Port Dalhousie, and how we really showed the world how strong we are when it comes to rowing, and how we opened the doors to the athletes and to the spectators. And really it was a display of our patriotism when you got to sit in the grandstands and hear the Canadian anthem playing over and over after we were gold medal winners in so many of the different heats. So from rowing, we had Canada Day in Rene Park in Port Dalhousie. We had our strategic plan that came out, and the strategic plan that's going to guide our community over the next 10 years. And I've talked about that previously in last year's show, and how that sets the foundation for where we want to go, and how we want to be one of the top cities in North America our size, and how it's built around sustainability. It's built around the 4 pillars of sustainability, and you're going to hear more about that in the coming months. And we looked at our budget and how we changed our budget process, and it's a small detail, but it's important because the budget committee meets year-round now, talking not just about how this year's budget is being developed, but how we're financially positioning the city moving forward. It's looking at our committee structure and how we had 31 committees, and we now framed it around sustainability and made sure that the committees were aligned with our strategic plan. So we're down to 14 committees, but those committees are aligned and focused on what they're working on. So those are some of the things that we did as a city. Those are some of the highlights. Another highlight would be the opening of the announcement that IKEA is coming to St. Catharines, and it's going to be slated to open in early 2016. So looking at that as a positive. And the Fortress Group, the new owners of Port Place in Port Dalhousie, and how we've been working with them to clean the area up and then come forward with a new plan for Port. So when you look back at what's been accomplished in 2015, I think we have a lot to be proud of. And we have a lot to be proud of as citizens of our community. But I think 2016 is going to be a year that builds on our successes. And one of the final highlights from 2015 was the announcement of the Mayor's Poverty Reduction Initiative and how it came out of the Poverty Summit that I attended in April. And taking the ideas and best practices of that which is happening across our country and how it can be applied to our city in St. Catharines, because no one should be left behind. And so it was the start of that initiative, and we're going to be having a discussion today on how we move forward on initiatives like the Mayor's Poverty Reduction Strategy. So those are the highlights. I hope everyone had a wonderful new year, and I know that many of you have been looking at and watching and participating in the International Hockey Federation's Under-18 hockey tournament that is just wrapped up last week at the Meridian Center. And when you look at that venue, 8 teams from across the world came, and these young women played with such heart and such talent, really opened up a lot of eyes to the creativity and the energy and the skill level of these young women. And really, I had an opportunity to be at the opening ceremonies in Niagara Falls, and I was doing an interview, and it was one of those interviews where you just close your eyes and you say, that was probably one of the best interviews, until I had a tap on the shoulder, and it was Mayor Diodati who interrupted me. And of course it's because my show was the #1 rated show on Cogeco, and his is #2, and so he had to disrupt me, but I got through it. So here's a little clip. Canada, the Niagara Sports Commission, and being a partner right from the very beginning, so that when this...
Mayor of Niagara Falls. Let me have a look. Oh, yeah. How's that? Is that good?
Okay, so now, if I'm the Mayor of Niagara Falls, I'm going to take all the OLG money, and we're going to... it took me the power away. So, Jim, to be #1, you just got to keep watching my show. You'll learn some of the tricks of the trades. Anyway, I have 2 guests here, 2 friends of mine who are joining us today, and it's a pleasure to have them on the show. We have Elisabeth Zimmerman, who is the Executive Director of the YWCA Niagara, and Tim Arnold, the Community Outreach at Southridge Church. And the first show of the year, I wanted to focus in on talking about a compassionate city building concept. I want to talk about the needs that are facing our community, and I couldn't have asked for more individuals who have the kind of skill sets, who have the sort of feet on the ground, who understand where the city is and where we need to go and how we can get there. And Elisabeth has worked for over 20 years in the not-for-profit sector, 9 years as the executive director for the YWCA Niagara region, which is a not-for-profit organization working with homeless women and their families, providing crisis housing, transitional supported housing, and ongoing support services. She has a deep understanding for the importance of addressing the issues of poverty and the need for quality support systems that can minimize long-term impacts. Elisabeth's focus is on the social services sector, has been working not only with families that are living in poverty, but promoting and encouraging community involvement. She is actively involved in various communities and initiatives that address the impacts of poverty and homelessness. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
And Tim Arnold. Tim Arnold, again, is the community outreach organizer at Southridge Church. And his background is in the corporate side. And for a number of years, Tim was training corporations, people, leaders in business, and about corporate leadership and corporate training. And he sold the company and then got involved in outreach and homelessness. And for the past 8 years, he has been working at Southridge in that capacity, and he has grown that facility there, become an advocate in our community for those in need. And again, welcome to the show, Tim.
Thanks.
So I just want to start by really talking about the concept of compassionate city building. It's something that the viewers are going to hear a lot of, but you've been doing it for years. So Elisabeth, what does the term mean to you in terms of compassionate city? How do in what you do and your experiences, what does that mean? How do you build a compassionate city?
Well, I think that the important piece is to, I think the fundamental piece of compassion is being non-judgmental. It is about understanding that every human being is deserving of respect and being treated with dignity. I think that it's also then, it translates to systems and understanding how our systems can be a form of discrimination or a form of marginalizing people further. And so when we talk about compassionate cities, then that would be one of the things that come to mind, those who deliver the service, but how the service is set up to be delivered as well.
So expand on that. So when you talk about systems, because the folks at home may not understand what would a system look like. So to give an example of what you would.
Well, I think that one of the things that actually struck me just recently, is, and frankly, I don't even know what your answer would be on this, but we have this incredible aquatic center in St. Catharines. So if you have if you have challenges around finances to be able to afford, what are the strategies in place to be able to make it affordable for someone who has minimal income? And then looking at those systems and ensuring that, you might have a strategy, you might have something in place, but is it difficult to access that? Or does that marginalize someone further by making it really, that it's not a dignified process for them to be able to have to ask for subsidy or something to that effect? That's one example. From a social services perspective, are we setting up barriers when someone needs to access emergency shelter? When they walk through our door, what's their experience? Is it an experience that makes them feel worse, or does it make them feel that there's support and there's comfort and there's no judgment? That we are all a circumstance away from being in that same place.
I think that's important when you talk about the services provided by the YWCA. It's a model for what we're trying to build here. And
Absolutely.
I've had the opportunity to tour the YWCA, but there's also a project that you're working on that will extend your service and enhance the service. And you just want to touch briefly on that? Sure.
We've been operating a family shelter for the last few years, but it was a wonderful project that we did in partnership with the region for a property that was expropriated. And we knew it was going to be short term, but it was an opportunity to pilot the program and see what the uptake was going to be. We realized very quickly that there was a strong need for sheltering services for homeless families. And one of the wonderful things about the way that it was structured was that it kept the family intact, it kept them self-sufficient while they searched for housing, access to other resources. And so we found it a really successful model. But the challenge was to find a new property. So we felt that at first that it was not going to be an issue, but we saw quickly that we couldn't find the kind of facility. So we're now doing a build, which is pretty exciting. We're as you are well aware, we've just are in the final stages of purchasing a piece of property on Oakdale Avenue. Yep. And we will be rebuilding our family shelter there, and it will also have additional transitional housing units, and so it will be more along that, will enhance the continuum of services we already provide.
Right, so we'll be hearing more about that in coming months, and that's part of, again, providing additional services to those in need, and it's going to be part of our concept of building a compassionate city. So when we come back from the break, Tim, I'm going to ask you and talk to you about compassionate city building. We'll further the discussion.
All of us, compassion is not something that one or two people are born with. I think it's something that all of us have, and sometimes we just save it for those closest in our life. Right. But if we chose deliberately to have a compassionate lens with everyone, that's a powerful thing. So, compassion's one thing. The city, though, a lot of times, when it comes to things, those issues that you kind of don't want to look at, homelessness, addictions, mental illness, poverty, the average member of a community is happy because other people deal with it. That's the YWCA's job, or that's Southridge's job, or Community Care is doing a great job, all of which is true. But if we as a city say, compassion is something that all of us are going to own. It's something that when I see something that isn't okay, I'm not outsourcing that to others. I know I have at least one role, even if it's a smile, a handshake, or a how you doing. And the movement towards us committing to becoming more of a compassionate city, I think has the potential to totally transform St. Catharines.
So the model has been influenced from both the summit that Elisabeth and I attended in Ottawa, but also the learning that I've experienced at Southridge. So touch on how you bring compassion into what you do at the homeless shelter. Give us an example of that.
Sure. So we've been operating a homeless shelter for 10 years, and at the end of the first year, we started to look back at kind of what was working. What were individuals' lives that, people that maybe have been street involved for years, decades maybe, that we were seeing huge changes. And almost every single example you could link to kind of an unexpected but life-changing friendship. For whatever reason, the individual that had accessed the shelter had connected somehow to usually a volunteer, not paid staff, not a caseworker, not a social worker, but a volunteer that provided friendship. And we saw, like, if someone is on the streets or if someone's dealing with a lot of challenges of poverty, the amount of challenges that they have to kind of navigate the system and navigate services and just have the confidence to keep going, a staff member can't provide that. But if you start to tap into a healthy community, you've got a few friends, we call it a circle of support, of people that aren't there to be a caseworker, they're just friends. That makes the difference. And you talk about the non-judgment. Whether you do good or do bad, I'm not going anywhere. So we started to pay attention to that and use the term friendship makes the difference. That we focus on people that are street involved. For someone in the streets, if they can have 2 or 3 really solid, positive friends, usually someone that wouldn't be a likely friend, someone usually of privilege, someone that may not normally connect, the likelihood of that person moving forward out of poverty is so much higher. So we kind of orient now everything we do around that idea of friendship makes a difference, so that when someone comes to the shelter doors, we certainly want to provide great meals and a warm bed and a safe place and good coaching. But more than that, we'd say, while you're here, we want to have lots happening, programs every day, rock climbing on Tuesday nights, creative arts, music programs, something that you could participate in that's going to have just as many volunteers, and just be open to relationship, be open to friendship. And this last year we celebrated our 10th year, and the whole 10th year anniversary celebration was hosted by people, both volunteers and people that have come from the streets, that's lives have been transformed, not just the street involved friends, people like myself, whose lives have been transformed through these friendships. And ultimately, when you look at the idea of friendship makes a difference, the foundation to that's compassion. It's saying, and I said earlier, we have compassion for our family. If my family needs something, I'm there. I'm going to deliver it. Let's not stop it there. Let's not just stop it to the people that we know well. Let's say, hey, I can be compassionate with everyone I interact with. Right.
And that's where I think, so we're modeling, we're creating a model, and it's based on working with YWCA, Southridge, Community Care, the Niagara Poverty Reduction Network, and also those with lived experience, meeting with them and gaining an understanding. And so the model that we're developing, the Compassionate City model, from my perspective, starts within the city as well, the corporation, the City of St. Catharines. We have 600 plus employees. And we're creating a model so that our employees are in the parks, they're in the arenas, they're in the libraries, they're in the aquatic center that you talked about. They're on the streets taking down trees, shoveling the roads, we're everywhere. But what are the tools that we're providing our employees to have that compassionate lens that we talked about? And I know that at the YWCA, you're constantly teaching that to your staff about that compassionate lens, but I don't think it extended to the corporation of the City of St. Catharines. And so we're building on what you've established and introducing that into our corporate culture to create that opportunity. And I want to share a story for myself where, coming into the aquatic center, I had passed a homeless person who was coming out, and I walked right by him, but then I stopped before going in the doors. And it was that switch. The switch went off of, why didn't you say hi to him? Why didn't you acknowledge him? And so I turned around and I just said, hello. And he turned around and said hello back. And from that became a 20-minute conversation about why he was where he is. He knew my family from Facer Street. We had a discussion about his challenges, and it was, I saw him as a human being, not as someone who was just shuffling by. And so that, I think, was the moment for me, that's a part of what a compassionate city is acknowledging people, having the empathy. And I've learned that from working with both of you. So if I wanted to get involved in the YWCA and I wanted to embrace a more compassionate concept, how would I do that, Elisabeth?
I think, as Tim was talking about, volunteering is a wonderful way, and I think that what you just talked about is that direct experience of talking to someone humanizes it, and so volunteering is an amazing way to become involved and to understand the challenges and the issues that people are dealing with, and being able to make those differences.
So if I called,
Yep.
or if someone went to YWCA online and drive,
Yep.
what could I do? What is something
Well, there's
I
a
can do?
lot of different things you
So
can do. So you can
let the public know.
You can volunteer within the shelters by we have kitchens because we provide meals, helping with cooking. We do fun activities as well, and you can lead an activity. We have a front desk and sort of administrative support. We have fundraising events. You can be on a committee. There are even just the day-to-day workings of the organization or the building. In the summertime, it's helping with landscaping. In the wintertime, you can come and shovel a walkway. There's all different types of things that you can become involved in, helping just on within the shelter and cleaning a room, things like that, doing some laundry. There's so many ways you can become involved. We call it the house, so it's a household.
So the best way to get in touch with you?
The best way is you could call the office or get on the website, contact through the website. We have Caitlin Samways is our volunteer coordinator. Connect with her, and she's great at helping you to find where you feel like you can fit the best.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And Tim, so I'm looking to get involved, and I want to be a part of this compassionate city model. How do I get involved at Southridge?
Sure. The shelter started as a way to see our community, reach out to folks in need, but also to provide our church community and the community at large opportunities to have their lives transformed. So the kind of volunteerism side is as much a mandate as the folks that we're serving, which means that there's quite a few opportunities. We would, with this idea of friendship makes a difference, look for as many unique ways to see those unlikely friendships develop as possible. So certainly there is lots of roles within running the shelter. Our shelter is generally volunteer driven. We have staff that keep it safe and secure, and we have coaches, but most of what happens that's really powerful comes from their volunteers. So there's kitchen roles, there's things in the day-to-day operations, but out of I think we have about 250 volunteers in the shelter, the vast majority are kind of just in what we would call our community programming. So find something that you like that we do and just do it. It's just with a different group of people. So we have a euchre night, we have rock climbing, we have creative arts, and then that's a weekly program. So just pick a program that you enjoy and be open to some unlikely friendships. And beyond homelessness, we have a partnership with Rose City Kids. There's lots of kids programs and migrant farm workers. We have 8 months of the year in St. Catharines as well. We have lots of folks that live here, away from their families, away from their friends, and we provide a lot of community outreach there with cricket leagues, farm visitations, special events. So there's a lot of opportunities. Our model is based on folks getting involved and offering friendship. So go to southridgeshelter.ca and lots of information there.
And get involved.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to thank you both for being on the show. I want to thank you for your leadership, for your caring for our community, and I think it's the root of how you build strong communities is you have that compassion, you have that empathy, you have that sense of caring for one another. And Elisabeth, I do want to thank you for your position as chair with the Niagara Poverty Reduction Network. Again, another organization, or not an organization, but a coming together of service providers that have been at the forefront of talking about how do we get to the root causes and start to look at the solutions, such as public transit and affordable housing and things that we'll be talking more about in the coming months as a region and as a city. So I think this was a fitting way to kick off 2016, because this is going to be, I think, our theme for the year is building a compassionate city. And as we go through this, we'll measure it, we'll be talking about it, we'll embrace it, we'll celebrate it. And in doing so, I think this could be a model that other communities can emulate as we move forward. So I want to thank you for your leadership and wish you all the best for 2016. And for those at home, again, if you're out and about and you see wonderful window shots, if you see parts of our community, take out your mobile phone, take a photo, put it on Instagram, put it on Twitter, put it on Facebook, use the hashtag OurHomeSTC, and it's our way of showcasing our community. It's our way of showing our pride for our community and sharing what is beautiful around us. So until our next show, have a great day.